the Patreon has been a real lifesaver, and it's also been a great way to build a community.
Right.
So that everybody helps each other, and nobody feels like they're going it alone. We're kind of like the figureheads of it, but it's really more about everybody else, all of the other members, that really makes it such a valuable resource.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm John Santiago, and welcome to another episode of the Videocraft Show presented by Video Husky. For any of you who are new around here, it is my job to interview and speak with content creators who are building their audiences primarily through video. And this week, I speak to two people who thought of leaving everything behind to start a new life abroad, and they made it happen. Amelia and JP left their home in Denver, Colorado, and sold everything they owned to move to Ecuador. And in the process, they decided to launch a YouTube channel to document their adventures. On their YouTube channel, Amelia and JP offer viewers an inside look into their unconventional life in Latin America, and in their videos, they share tips and inspiration for other expats thinking about living and working from Ecuador. And in this episode, I speak to JP and Amelia about the major health scare they faced that prompted them to move abroad, tips and advice for negotiating deals with brands, their approach to building and thriving and sustaining a community on Patreon, and so much more on this particular episode of the Videocraft Show. But before we jump into that conversation, I want to remind everybody, if you haven't done so already, make sure to subscribe to our email list. It is the best way to stay up to date with new episodes of the podcast. You can do so by visiting www.videocraftshow.com. Now, let's go ahead and toss it to my conversation with Amelia and JP, the unconventional YouTubers living a life abroad in Ecuador. Amelia and JP, thank you for joining me on this episode of the Videocraft Show presented by Video Husky. It is such a pleasure to have you guys on. And, we were chatting a little bit before we started this conversation that we're about to, kick off, and can hear the waves, you can hear the ocean in the background of where you are in Ecuador. So this is going to be a very calming episode, I think, for me personally. So thanks for coming on, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah, appreciate it. So for everybody who may not be familiar with you, kind of give people a rundown or walkthrough of where it is that you are in the world right now and what drew you initially to YouTube.
That is all JP. I have to take no credit.
Yeah,
for both?
Yes.
Yeah,
for both.
Oh, okay.
We live in Manta, Ecuador right now, which is kind of on the central coast of the Pacific Ocean. It's a beautiful, beautiful place with the ocean views and the soothing ocean sounds, like you said. So that's where we live now. We have lived in Cuenca, Ecuador. We lived there for over 2 years when we first moved to Ecuador. And then we lived in a small, rural, undeveloped beach town for a year during the pandemic. That was an interesting experience. And now we live in a developed city.
Yeah. So we're making our way throughout Ecuador.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So is the goal to just kind of live in all parts of Ecuador at this point?
Sure. We want to visit all parts, but I don't know. I'm really liking Manta.
Yeah.
It's a really nice city, and we have a great condo right on the ocean, and I don't know if I want to leave here.
The weather here is fantastic, and when we lived in Cuenca, we both missed Cuenca horribly. It's an incredibly beautiful, architecturally fantastically interesting and diverse city, but the elevation was too much for JP, and it was a bit chilly.
Right.
So we moved to Olón, which is this little rural beach town, which was a really awesome experience. And oh my gosh, the beach there is fantastic, but the weather, not so much. It was cloudy for like 6 months out of the year. Really, like Seattle,
like
cloudy. Yeah.
They call it Star Trek Gray.
Yeah.
It was like the original Star Trek series where they always had the stage background. That's what it looked like all the time. It was the same color of gray all the time for 6 months.
Yeah, it was tough. And then we moved here to Manta, and yeah, like JP said, we're loving it. So.
Yeah, it's very sunny here, sunny and warm.
But we do want to
Well,
see more of Ecuador because it's just such an incredibly diverse country.
mm-hmm.
But we still haven't answered your question about YouTube. So, JP.
Well, I guess, we decided to move here because mainly for my health reasons. I had two major spinal surgeries, and after that was all over, I couldn't afford health insurance anymore or health care. So we kind of had to leave. So we look at ourselves somewhat economic or healthcare refugees because we couldn't afford healthcare in the United States anymore with a pre-existing condition like mine. As the two surgeries were almost $1 million. And luckily I was covered by insurance at the time. But as soon as that was over, they canceled my plan, and then I had to reapply. They canceled the plan every year, and every year this was on the marketplace plan. So every year, everyone who had the plan had to reapply to get new coverage. So it wasn't like they just said, oh, you've got, we're canceling you because that's illegal. But it's totally legal to cancel the entire plan for everyone and make everyone reapply. And so I couldn't afford it. It was $1,200 a month just for health insurance. And that was catastrophic coverage. So pretty much everything would have been out of pocket.
Yeah. And JP wasn't able to work for a year because he was recovering from his surgery. So it was definitely made us reevaluate all of our priorities, which is what led us to our decision to move to Ecuador, because we had both always wanted to live in another country. And that was really the catalyst.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was now or never. And then, I don't know, JP decided thought YouTube would be a good idea because we wanted to start to track our journey, I guess, share our experiences.
Yeah, we wanted a journal of our life doing this because it's just so out of the box or unconventional. And so we wanted to kind of document that, but we also wanted to hopefully inspire other people that were doing what we were doing, commuting to a cube and spending all of our time working and not even making ends meet, and then so we decided that we kind of wanted to hopefully inspire other people with our story to maybe do something unconventional or different than what they've been used to do.
Now, how long were you guys thinking about moving abroad, even prior to your health circumstances, JP? Was this something that had always been, in the back of your mind, but it was always just like, maybe someday? A lot of people just say maybe someday we'll do that because things might be, humming along at a decent level, living here in the States. Was that kind of the situation for you guys?
I would say, yeah, we both of us independently, before we knew each other, wanted to move abroad. I had a chance to move to London during the .com days. And right when I was getting ready to sign the paperwork, the bubble burst, the .com bubble. And so the company I worked for closed their office in London. So thankfully I didn't go because the people who had gone had to pay their own way back.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm glad I didn't go, but I was really excited to live in London, but that just never came to fruition. But both of us have always wanted to live abroad.
Yeah, I knew when the first time I went to Mexico, when I think I was like 22, that I wanted to live in another country. Particularly for me, it was always a Latin American country. But it was, like you said, a kind of like, oh, someday I'll get there, someday. And then after everything that JP went through, someday is now.
Someday, eventually someday becomes today, right? And it hits you very quickly.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, tomorrow is not guaranteed. So someday may never come if you don't do it quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I also traveled quite a bit. I talk about this every now and then when I have guests on the show who also, have lived abroad or gone abroad too. And, your story actually reminds me a lot of two friends of mine, very similar. The wife she was diagnosed with cancer, and they were both teachers in Massachusetts, and they just kind of had that, aha moment where they realized, we've been deferring too much of our lives here, working incredibly hard and not necessarily enjoying the fruits of our labor. And, they've actually been bouncing around quite a bit too. They were in Mexico. I saw them recently in Santa Cruz in the Bay Area, but they were living in an RV and everything. And, just like you, I find them like very inspiring too. Like they're reminders of what is really possible out there in the world.
Yeah. And once you get out of your comfort zone and you realize you experience more of what life has to offer, you realize that that can be your new normal, that you don't have to go and return to the old status quo if you don't want to. And that's what's so cool about it. People ask us every once in a while if we would move back to the United States or if we're going to stay in Ecuador forever. And we always say, we don't know where we'll end up, but we know that there's a whole world out there. So will we move back to the United States? Probably not, because we want to experience other countries.
Yeah, it kind of gets addictive when you go, because I remember when we first moved to Cuenca, it was just so new and exciting, and everything was a new experience. And after living there 2.5 years, it just felt like home again. And so then we moved to the coast to that little rural town, and it was totally different. But then after a year of living there, I was ready to move again. And I can't say that I'm going to feel that way about Manta yet, but I might. You get addicted to the whole, like the newness aspect, the new exciting adventures, and creating new routines and meeting new people.
Well, it's exciting too, because you know, the way that you guys are doing it is very long-term focused, right? Like you're actually living in these places, which gives you a different experience than, say, you know, the typical travel vlogger who might like jet set into a location for like 2 or 3 days, get like a really quick sampling of a place, but not necessarily like integrate themselves in with the neighborhood and the culture there. And the way that you're doing it allows you to do the opposite.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, we call ourselves digital expats because we're, digital nomads move around all the time. A lot of them either live out of a van or a backpack, and we don't do either of those. So we like to live in a condo or a house. A real home.
Yes. And like you said, it was important for us to get to know an area and share that with our viewers and help them make better, more informed decisions too. And just for our own enjoyment.
Yeah. Yeah. That was really lacking. I guess that was another reason we started this, is that the information was really lacking when we moved here.
Right.
So especially from a video perspective. And I just felt like the videos that were out there just didn't do the country justice after we had lived here for a year. And I thought we should start showing the way it really looks. And I guess that's another reason why we started the channel.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think, and I think it's really cool too that, now obviously over time, if you guys move somewhere else, the content of the channel may evolve, but right now I like to use this term like niche within a niche, like you're in the travel niche, which is so wide, right? Like there's so many, you can be a travel vlogger that like goes internationally to all these different places around the world, but after a while, like it's quite, oversaturated, right? Whereas like you guys have like focused solely on Ecuador, and there's like a gap there, right? Like maybe some of these travel vloggers go to Ecuador, but you guys are like so into the thick of it that you can give so much more knowledge, share so much more knowledgeable information than, again, somebody who's kind of just dropping in for a short period of time.
Yeah. A couple of those travel vloggers have a lot more views than us on their Ecuador videos. And you go do a search for Ecuador and they come up and they've had one video here 4 years ago. And ours is below them. Like, what is YouTube doing to us?
That's just the way it goes, right? But that was our intention, because you're right. You can see a short overview video from a wide variety of people, but that is not the same. That doesn't give you enough of a feel for what it's really like to live someplace. And we were nervous. Well, I was nervous. JP was ready to move sight unseen, but I was nervous and wanted to come here and do our exploratory trip and really take our time and check things out before we decided to pull the trigger and up and move to another country.
I think if we didn't have the dogs, you would have moved sight unseen. But we had 2 dogs, and I think she was worried about bringing the dogs here and making, without knowing anything about it. But I don't know. I was ready to just move. Yeah. Because I knew we had to go somewhere, and I did a lot of research online, and we looked at a lot of different countries, and Ecuador just kept coming to the top. And so that's why we ended up taking our exploratory trip here. And I was in love with it like immediately. Soon as the first day, I was like, oh my God, I love this place. And Amelia, it took her a day or two to kind of, for her to warm up to it.
It was a little overwhelming for me. I actually thought my my high school Spanish would be okay. That was humbling. Oh my gosh, it was terrible.
Was there any bit of it that like kind of came back like at all?
I guess bits and pieces. Honestly, I understood more than I had expected. So that was a plus. And JP was able to communicate a little bit better. So it's a good thing we were together because I would listen and interpret and then he would respond.
Yeah, I just heard a blur of words, but then I have a larger vocabulary, so I can speak more than I can understand. So I can speak it much better than I can understand it. Amelia can understand better than she can speak. She's got it all in there, but her mouth can't keep up with her brain. So she trips over her tongue, whereas I just blurt it out.
Yeah.
But then they talk back to me and I'm like, I don't know. What did they say? No idea what they just said. And I ask like what I think is a yes or no question. And I get like 3 paragraphs. I'm like, was that a yes or a no?
Well, it's also too like I'm sure the Spanish that you learn, much like the Spanish that I learned in high school, is a different like dialect, right? Like you're probably learning more so here in the States, maybe like Mexican Spanish. But then when you go to like different other Latin American countries, like I lived in Colombia actually for 5 months in 2018, and just the regional differences between how they spoke Spanish in Medellin versus how they speak Spanish in the Caribbean and versus like what I knew from Mexican Spanish is just so different. There's so much different intonation. And I imagine it's the same for you guys in Ecuador too.
Absolutely. And in Cuenca, where we started, they have a Quichua dialect, which is the indigenous language, which is kind of blended. It's called Morlaca. So you get a combination of some traditional Spanish, Quichua, and then the Morlaca. And then their accent is just different. And there were times when we thought we were pronouncing things properly, and they just did not get our American Spanish either.
No, they just stare at us, confused look. I'm sure that's the way we looked at them too.
Yes.
Yeah. And then here on the coast, they drop consonants off the end of words like French. So like instead of quiero más, they say quiero ma, which is like literally translates to I want mom, but it means I want more. And they do contractions here on the coast too. So they'll say porfa.
Oh, yeah,
por favor. They'll say por. And they do that with a lot of different sayings where they combine 2 words into 1 word. And if you don't know the language really well, you just don't even know what they're talking about.
Our Spanish definitely improved once we moved to Olón because we had no choice but to get out and speak more. The nice thing about, well, I guess you could say it's a nice thing. When you're first getting started and if you come to Cuenca, there's a lot of English speakers there. However, it's really easy then to speak English. Yeah. But when we moved to the coast, our Spanish knowledge just went way up because we were put outside of our comfort zone, and definitely we've learned a lot and come a long way. And it's humbling still. I always say the more I know, the more I realize I have to learn. And
it's like an infinite loop. Like you just never, you feel like you can look back like 10, 20 years ago at your life and you know that you're infinitely more knowledgeable today than you were back then. But then you're exposed to so many new experiences, especially in your guys' life, where you're in a completely different country than what you grew up in and were raised in, where you're like, oh gosh, this learning like never stops.
Exactly. Yep. That's the perfect way to describe it. The infinite loop.
Yep.
Yes. So in terms of research, JP, you mentioned that you looked into Ecuador. I know you guys were looking at some other countries as well. How did you go about doing your research, like looking online? Like what were some sources that you leaned on heavily to kind of inform your decision?
We looked a lot at the international living, the top 10 expat destinations, and Cuenca was at the top of the list when we were looking. I think they've dropped down a few now, but that was kind of what kind of guided our research. And we looked at a lot of those countries, plus a few more that weren't on the list. But then the ones that weren't on the list, we found out we just weren't even qualified. We wouldn't be able to get a visa
to live
in those, like New Zealand and Australia. We really were thinking about New Zealand, but we couldn't qualify for any of the visas. Mm-hmm. So, and then Europe, we really liked the idea of living in Europe, but with our clients and jobs still in the United States, States, we did not want to have to work at night. We'd be working, till midnight or later, 1 a.m. if we lived in Europe. But it's because of the time difference for our clients in Java or in Denver still. So
that would have been tough.
We didn't want to do that. So we really narrowed it down. We thought we were going to move to Mexico. It's really what we had in our mind. We had both been to Playa del Carmen and really liked the town and thought that's where we would live. But after we did the research, and we just decided that we wanted something more exotic.
I think that too, thinking back to how we researched, we did look for YouTube videos and we did find some, and just Google searching everything we possibly could and looking on Facebook and Reddit, lots of just a variety of different sources, international living, obviously, like JP said. I think we would just go in and constantly just type in cities in Ecuador, and just, you find something and then you're able to start linking out to more, but it was still a little bit difficult to find as much information as there is available now, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I just feel like there is a lot more information out there, but now sometimes what the challenge is like, how can you decipher what is legitimate and what is not legitimate?
Very true.
That is what is so difficult. I love, I don't know if you guys have heard of Tim LaFell. He has this blog called cheapestdestinations.com. I think that's the website. I'll have to look that up. We'll add that to the show notes, but he's got some great resources. He wrote a book on like different places. I think he lives in like Guanajuato, Mexico.
Nice.
And a lot of people have come to him for advice on moving elsewhere if they're coming from like a Western country, like, the United States or Canada.
Cool.
But I'm also wondering too about like just the fears that you guys had. Like Amelia, you kind of teased that, you were a little bit more, you had your reservations and you were a little bit more cautious, I would say, than JP, who was like, let's just move, let's make this happen right away. I'm curious, like how you dealt with those fears of leaving, the place that is your home, that you grew up in and that you were born in, and moving abroad to a completely different culture and country in Ecuador.
I think it helped knowing, I had always wanted to do this, so I knew I had to put myself out of my comfort zone no matter what. But coming on our exploratory trip helped immensely, because it gave me the confidence of like, okay, I've already been here. I have a better idea of what to expect. We stayed in Cuenca for 10 days and we were able to walk everywhere and get a better feel for the city. And we cooked our own food and tried to live what we always recommend people to live like a local, live like you would want to live, right? So that you can envision yourself living here. And that helped a lot. I mean, there is still some culture shock for sure, like the Spanish, for example, but I just got over it. I remember when we first moved there, we were really nervous about our safety because we read about how you can't walk around on the street with your cell phone. And then I looked around and I'm like, JP, everybody is walking down the street looking on their phone. I mean, everybody, nobody, I realized that these are the same people here as they are everywhere in the world, and everybody wants to live a happy, healthy life, right? And there's always, and you have to use your common sense. So once I realized that, okay, well, there's always going to be that element of bad guy out there. Well, I wouldn't walk down a dark alley by myself in Denver. So why would I do that in Cuenca? It's no different. And the people are so friendly and so incredibly welcoming. And that helped me get past my fears too. And also we were able to connect with other expats who had been there and done the same thing. And, they were all happy and they lived to tell.
Yeah,
so
exactly. That's one thing I like about traveling. I always try to remind myself about that, is that you kind of, you're able to learn that like the world is actually not such as scary as we think it is. And that, like you said, we all want the same thing. Like people, it's not like most people are out there like living their lives trying to destroy someone else's life. Like that's not
exactly.
like most people's motivations. If anything, the reason they might be doing that is just because they think that that's the way that they have to operate in order to have a happy life. And so
Right.
that's great that you guys are able to learn
Right.
that.
Yeah, I think, like I said, it helped. Once we landed here, I relaxed immensely, meeting other people, going to places, eating the food, just living our lives. And I was able to relax. And now we always joke around that people, I think Ecuador is like one of the, like Colombia and some of those other countries are the way we picture them in the scary movies, the Hollywood movies where everybody is in a drug cartel. My sister asked me if we were going to become drug mules. It's like, oh my God. Or it's some crazy National Geographic where they don't have any running water and everybody lives in a shack. And then you get here and you're like, it is nothing like that. And of course, common sense would tell you it's not going to be anything like that. Like I said, everybody wants to have the, security, safety, education, a nice home, clean water. We all want that. And most of the world has all of that. And it doesn't have to look exactly like it does in the United States for it to be even better.
Exactly. Yeah. And especially with, I won't touch on this in a moment, but just, the capacity, obviously the world has learned about this over the last year, the capacity to work remotely. And, we're having this conversation. I'm in California. You guys are in Ecuador. The capacity to do your work from anywhere in the world is just so much more widespread than it ever was in like human history. So we're in the,
oh, I know, it's
exactly
game changer.
like, so again, that's something I want to touch base with you here in a moment. But one thing that I want to circle back on, and I think you touched on this a little bit moments ago, it's just about your lives before your health issues, JP. Like you guys lived in Denver. And I've never been to Denver. I have a friend who lives there and I know that it's a beautiful place. But I'm just curious about what your lives look like prior to, the health issues that you encountered, JP, and then even the ideas of potentially moving abroad.
Well, I'll tell what mine look like, and then you tell what yours look like.
Okay.
Okay. So I sold a .com back in 2008, right before the last financial crisis. And so I actually didn't work too much for a few years. So I just kind of lived off that for a while. And then I started a web design business, and I did some volunteering. I coached through SCORE. I counseled people who wanted to start a business and kind of walked them through if you want to start an internet business, how do you do it? Just volunteer work. So that's kind of what I did. Oh, and I flipped a couple of houses kind of for fun. And I guess that was my life for the most part.
Well, you started getting serious about the web design.
Yeah, I started doing
2 years before.
Yeah, I started a web design business again because I had one before I started the .com, and then I thought, I'll start doing web design again. That's what I know. So I did that for a while, but then the health issues I had to basically shut the doors like on the way into my surgery. So I had to let go of my staff, and we basically just shuttered it. I still have those clients. They're recurring clients, I maintain their websites, but I haven't built a new website in years.
And for me, I was a regional sales manager. So I was on the road 2 to 3 weeks out of the month. So I spent a lot of time driving to the airport and then on airplanes and then in hotels. So I can't say my quality of life was that great. I mean, it was a good learning experience, but it's not something I would ever want to do again. It was hard because I would come home and I would just be wiped out. And then, you've got your weekend where you have to try to cram everything into the weekend. And then I would end up usually leaving on Monday afternoon or Tuesday morning for my next trip. And I covered the western half of the United States and then part of Canada. So it was a lot of going and doing presentations and dinners and networking and all of that stuff, which, it's fun, but and you meet lots of people. So that was great from a relationship building standpoint and just keeping it interesting. But at the same time, it gets kind of tedious, just like anything does, I guess.
Yeah, I did not like her being gone all the time. Every week, Monday or Tuesday, sometimes Sunday, Monday or Tuesday, she'd fly out. She'd get back Thursday or Friday. And that was awful.
Yeah.
And then she would forget her key or lock her keys in the car or leave them. I forgot you left them at the office that she was traveling to. So I had to get the keys and go to the airport so she could get her car.
I had to open a box with a sample in it, and they didn't have any scissors, and I grabbed my car key to use it, and then I set it down and left and came back to Denver. So they had to come get me. JP had to come. Fortunately, I knew where my spare key was.
Yeah.
So that I had forgotten all about
so thankful that you don't travel like that anymore.
Oh my gosh, no.
That's the great thing about working from home is that we get to spend all day with each other with this amazing ocean view instead of commuting to a cube and, dealing with potential fellow coworkers that irritate you. And we just don't have to deal with that stuff anymore. We get to just, cook our lunch and walk the dog in the middle of the day. We go for walks on the beach, swim in the pool.
Yeah, it's nice to have the flexibility. And we do still both work. So what happened was when we realized JP was having some serious issues, I quit that my traveling sales job and took a job in Denver. And I had the commute to the office, but that was really just on Mondays. So that wasn't as bad. I was very busy because I did business development. So I would go to a lot of networking events. So it was a lot of after hours type of things, but I was home every day, and then these guys, it's all about who you know, and at least in my industry. And I've known the owners of the company for a long time. So they were really gracious with me and gave me a ton of flexibility with my schedule so that I was able to be there and help JP because he couldn't walk. So after both his surgeries, he had to learn to walk again. So we've been through a lot.
Yeah. I'm really curious too, JP, just like your mentality of like tackling all of those health issues. Like what was it that kept you going when I'm sure there are many moments where you felt like hopeless or maybe like you're not making the kind of progress that you want to make in your recovery?
There was a slow recovery for sure, but I don't know. I never had the defeatist mindset. I like that movie Galaxy Quest. He's like, never give up, never surrender.
Is that Tim Allen?
Yeah, that's kind of what I just always think is like especially during that time, never give up, never surrender. And that's kind of what that was my mantra, I guess. But I never once thought, that I wouldn't be able to walk again, or I just felt like, okay, well, I'm going to walk farther today. Every day I tried to walk farther. I had a walker and we'd walk in the neighborhood and I'd do the best I could. And I'd walk the first day I could only make it out to the sidewalk in front of our house. And then within a week I was making it to the corner, and then I just eventually made it 2 blocks. And then eventually I got rid of the walker.
Yes.
And I had a cane.
Yeah. It was rough though, because we were avid hikers and we would hike every weekend. And when JP started losing feeling in his legs, it was terrifying obviously for both of us, but especially for JP. And it took months before the first surgery was in his neck. So that one you recovered pretty
within
quickly.
30 days. Yeah, I was walking pretty well within 2 weeks, but then within 30 days I was able to drive again. But after my lower back surgery, I was on those painkillers, and I don't even remember. Bad. There's 3 months there I don't remember, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah.
But I just don't have any memories of like the whole 3 months around that time. I was on so many painkillers and it was really bad, but
you kept the right attitude.
Yep.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no worries.
It's dry.
Well, at the same time too, Amelia, I'm wondering too if you drew any inspiration from JP just to see how tenacious he was, to come back from all of this. Because as his partner too, I'm sure it's hard to see somebody you love like going through that and not even be able to control what's happening.
Yeah. It was tough, but I guess I never really thought about it because it's just your personality. And I definitely drew strength from that. That helped me a lot when we were deciding to move to Ecuador, because JP was always like, you know what, no matter what, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And I was like, well, you're right. It is, because look at what we've already been through. And he never gave up. He never had I don't know. I mean, everybody has their moments, right? But you were never wallowing in self-pity and ready to throw in the towel. And
no, never, not once.
No.
That's not who I am.
No. And so I guess the thought never even occurred to me that even though I was a little afraid, I always knew we would be okay.
Well, and I said too, if we hate it, we can always move back. There's nothing that says that we have to do this forever. And,
right.
you know, we can, after having lived abroad now for almost 4 years, I can say that I don't see us moving back to the United States. There's a whole world to explore, and it's just so amazing. And it's not nearly as dangerous as us Americans have been led to believe it is. And I don't know, there's probably 100 countries I would move to before moving back to the U.S.
Yeah, because we can. It's not nearly as daunting. But I think it helped just because JP's personality has always been to do things outside of the norm, right? For somebody to be an entrepreneur, and he had sold his business, and then he was doing, the web design, and he was doing the public speaking and doing all these other things. And he was living his life, and it was fine that he wasn't following the conventional path, which I had been on, working for corporate America, and then, doing the regional sales job and sticking with the conventional type of job mindset, which I still have. But it's nice to know that I don't have to. I guess it made me feel like, okay, there are other ways you can go about this, and it is okay. And it's okay. And it's also okay to fail, because he had some things that didn't happen, but it never slowed him down. He never gave up.
Yeah, I failed a lot more than I succeeded. Yeah. But every failure was like, well, that didn't work. I won't do that again.
Yeah. And it's nice, because I would have been beating the crap out of myself, but that's useless. It doesn't get you anywhere. And now it's like, okay, well, we'll just try something else.
Yeah, JP, where would you say that comes from for you? Was there someone in your life that kind of influenced you, or kind of served as a model as to be as optimistic and kind of like always looking forward rather than, dwelling so much on what happened in the past? I
don't know exactly. I guess my family is like that. I have an entrepreneurial family. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I really don't know. I guess I just always thought that the best, I've always said I've been lucky. And so I don't know if it's luck or what, but I just always assume that it's going to work out. So even if something in my life, if something bad has happened, it's always led to something better. And so, and that's happened as long as I can remember. And so I always have the attitude of like, oh, well, this sucks. But then I have my eyes open to, okay, what's going to balance the scale now? So where's the good thing at? Sometimes it takes a while, but sometimes it's immediate. And I don't know. I guess it's just my attitude has always been that if this sucks, then something better is coming. And there's a reason why this sucks for me right now. And look at this. I mean, my back issues, I don't know that we would have moved abroad, at least not then. Yeah. We may have waited till we retire like most people do to do this, and worked the rest of our lives doing stuff we didn't necessarily enjoy as much and, that lifestyle. But instead, my back issues put us on this trek toward moving abroad when we're still young enough to enjoy it.
Yeah. It ends up, it's like, I don't know if you've ever heard of like this old Chinese proverb of like it's like a farmer or something. And he's always talking about people see to him and say, oh, this happened to you. What good fortune. And then the next thing happens. Oh, what that happened to you. How unlucky you are. And he would always just say like, we'll see. Like there's always like that next opportunity, down the line, regardless of whether like the last result or outcome was, not in your favor, or if it was in your favor, you're just constantly moving forward.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Life is full of ups and downs. That's, I guess, what makes it interesting.
Yeah. That is true. That's what makes it rich.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Because without the downs, right? Like what you're referencing, those moments that you had with your health issues, I'm sure it makes like just sitting where you are right now, like hearing the ocean and the waves like crashing against the shore and being able to just look outside like much more gratifying and more rewarding because you know what you had to experience beforehand to get to where you are.
Yeah, I'm very thankful for every day, especially because of Amelia too.
Oh, well.
That's
very,
awesome.
very, very fortunate to have met someone who puts up with me and my weird dreams. You know, and I'm one of those people that they make fun of in TV shows. I'm the guy that is like, just, you know, where the family's like, just go get a job. You know, what are you doing? Go get a job. Mm-hmm. It's like, I've got something in the works. You just wait. That's the way I've been my whole life too. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I've always made a living,
right?
Sometimes better than others. But I don't know. I've never been bored.
Yes.
With it.
I think it's always about keeping an open mind and looking for the possibilities.
Yeah.
And that's what we've done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I imagine that, you know, to tie it into the YouTube channel, like that's the approach that you guys took, was just, hey, look, I mean, maybe worst case scenario, we have like some awesome like home movies for ourselves. Like you said, you could just like look back at your life, you know, and reflect on that. And the best case scenario is like, what's happening now? You've built this community, right? And you've built a following online of people who are looking to you for your insights as American expats living abroad. So
exactly,
I'm to dive into that, to the YouTube channel. Could you tell me a little bit more about just the early days of the channel and what that looked like for you? And even just like, you know, JP, you had the idea to do this, you know, going from 0 to 1, essentially. Cause I think that's one of the hardest parts about content creation and going into YouTube, or now these days TikTok, or all kinds of social media. If you want to be a content creator, is you have these ideas, but then how do you actually make them a reality? How do you actually start making stuff and putting things out there in the world?
Yeah, that was challenging at first. We had 5 videos ready to go when we launched. So we weren't, I wanted to make sure we were actually going to record before we launched. So I wanted to have some in the bank. So we launched, actually, I think we had 10.
Did we?
We launched with 5 video, the first 5, and then we already had the other 5 done.
I think you're right.
And then just so that we had a little bit of a buffer, but we posted, it took us 4 months and 50 videos to get our first 100 subscribers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
it was painful.
50 videos. And our friends were like, I just don't understand why more people aren't watching your videos. I'm like, well, we don't know either. We think they're pretty good. But looking back on them now, they're horrible. They're just like horrible home movies now. And now we get people say, I miss your home movies. You guys are too polished. So it's like, well, I guess we've learned. And I just like to be a little bit more polished than we were in the beginning.
Yeah, we rambled a ton.
Yeah,
we just talked.
Some of our videos were like 30 minutes long, and we never really said much of anything. And now they're very focused, and we know what works better with the algorithm now. So unfortunately, we have to play the algorithm game if we want people to see our videos. And you know, we're not just doing this as a home movie personal journal anymore. Now it's a business, and so we actually have to worry about, you know, things like views. We don't worry about subscribers anymore. Subscribers are a vanity number, and YouTube doesn't even really factor that into the algorithm anymore. It's just watch time and views and how fast you get both of those. And so we just really focus on making videos people want to watch now. Yeah. And what YouTube will reward us for posting.
In the beginning, I guess we were really, our main thought was, well, if nobody watches this, it's okay because we'll have it forever. Mm-hmm. And we just went out and had fun. And that's the thing. We still, when we do our videos, we always make sure we're having fun, because if it isn't fun, we shouldn't be doing it. Mm-hmm. And we have scrapped videos or just given up on ideas if it just hasn't felt right.
Yeah, we've just thrown several videos. After I edited them, I'm like, this video is awful. We just decided not to even post it.
Yeah. Which is painful at the same time. But I don't know. It was an interesting process in the beginning because JP's like, all right, I want to do YouTube. It's like, oh, okay. Mm-hmm. I'm along for the ride. And we just kind of went out and he was just panning around with I guess you had a camera. You had the camera, yeah. And we just showed what we saw and what we liked in Cuenca. And
I know Amelia's always been so accommodating. She's like, okay. I'm like, okay, let's move to Ecuador. Okay. Let's start a YouTube channel. She's like, okay.
It wasn't quite so much okay about moving to Ecuador. It took a good year of you persuading me. It didn't help that we were actually looking at Manta, and it was right before they had that massive earthquake here in 2016. And I was like, oh, see, this is a sign that we're supposed to stay put.
No, and I wasn't really fully recovered yet either. So we delayed our move a year because of the earthquake, but mainly because I was afraid to be too far away from my neurosurgeon in case I had another issue. But after a year or so, I was back to normal for the most part.
But here we are now living in a high rise in Manta in same area where they had that massive earthquake and doing YouTube videos. So who knows? Who would have thought? I guess you did. You had the vision the whole time.
Yeah. So going back to like those early days of your channel, like you mentioned, JP, that you guys had to play the algorithm game to obviously get yourselves in front of people. Were there other things that you did or not so much in terms of like promoting your content and getting the word out there that you actually were doing this?
We started a Facebook page, and then we started the Facebook group. But
we had been around for a while before we did that.
We had been. I think we were. Well, I started the Facebook page right away, but it didn't really grow that much. It's still not that big. It's still only like 2,500 followers on it. But then we have a Facebook group that we started mainly because we were doing meetups in Cuenca before the pandemic, and we started a Facebook group to organize the gatherings. But then we moved, and then we had the pandemic, so those are no more. But the group now has, I think, 12 or 1,400 members in it.
I think.
But really, we didn't.
What did we do in the very beginning? We did videos 3 times a week. Yeah,
we posted 3 times a week for the first 2 years, almost year and a half, 2 years. We did 3 videos a week for the first 2 years, really, until we left Cuenca.
What?
It was a year and a half. Sorry, it was a year and a half. We did 3 videos a week for 18 months.
We don't even remember.
It's like a blur at this point for you guys. Like, yeah, we did 3, I don't know, for 2 years or a year and a half.
Yeah. So it was, YouTube rewards you for posting more frequently. So the more you post, and then we also did some daily ones, like when we would travel or we would basically like record, edit, and post all in the same day. So people felt like they were kind of coming along with us. And those actually really boosted our views a lot. But man, that really wore us out.
But I think the big thing was, this was JP's baby because I was working, but JP answered every single comment and really engaged with our viewers. And that's how I like to think that's a big part of how we were able to build our community. Plus, we really paid attention and what people were asking. And so we started to learn our audience and see who we were attracting. And we've kind of adjusted our style and our content to reflect the wants and needs of our viewers, which helped a lot.
Yeah, as far as promotion, though, we really didn't do much. In fact, right to this day, 98% of our traffic either comes from YouTube browse or search or suggestions. So we get 1% comes from Facebook. And I post every video to our Facebook page and our Facebook group. And I've shared on our Instagram page. That's like our second largest Instagram, but I don't post there that much anymore because we can't link to anything. Yeah. So I post once in a while when I feel like I've taken a good picture of something, I'll post it over to Instagram. But really, we haven't done much. We did a couple of collaboration videos earlier.
We did.
That with other YouTubers that either from afar or we just did the one with Sara and Luca, right? Leave Everything and Wonder. They happen to be driving their van through Cuenca. So we met up with them and did a collab video, and we've done a couple of other collabs, but to be honest, they just didn't really generate much traffic. The collabs took a whole lot of work with very little reward for us.
I think
other than the relationships that we've built with the other YouTubers, which we really value.
Yes.
We've kept in touch with some of them, and man, it's really helped to have other people to, commiserate with and strategize with and get their opinions on different things. That has been invaluable.
Oh, absolutely. I guess as far as when we first started and growing our channel, I mean, a lot of it was us learning how to improve on our own. Like we'd go back and watch our videos and watch other people's videos and like, all right, we need to work on this. We need to not ramble so much. We need to not look at each other so much because
the sprinkler head. I used to call it the sprinkler head because we'd go like this the whole time. We'd just keep looking at each other. And now we look at the camera.
Yeah. And that was feedback we got from our commenters, and we learned a lot from our audience. And we're lucky enough that Ecuador is small enough that we worked on using key terms and hashtags, searchable terms that people would, if they're going onto YouTube and looking for Cuenca, for example, then hopefully they would end up finding us in that search in YouTube because, there aren't a lot of people here doing YouTube, but at least there weren't when we started.
More now.
There's more now, yeah.
I think we've inspired a lot of people. They're like, if they can do it, we can do it.
And that is true. And yes, you can.
Yeah, that's what's kind of fascinating sometimes about content creation is in YouTube in general is like you can, if you're one of like the early pioneers in your niche, then other people, they start doing it too because you inspired them. I mean, is that something that overwhelms you at all? Like in terms of just, wow, okay, we're actually like building something here with other people, like, growing this platform for Ecuador to become more well known around the world as a destination potentially for people to live.
It doesn't really get overwhelming. The whole influencer thing though is still so strange to me because I just feel like we're just normal people sharing our journey. I don't feel like we're influencers, but I guess we are.
It is interesting. I just feel like we're just trying to share and encourage people to live a better life. And I guess that makes us influencers, but it's a weird concept. And the celebrity thing is very strange too. When we're walking down the street and people yell at us or, or want to stop us on the street to talk or whistle or
take our pictures.
We get people ask us for selfies all the time. And it's really interesting because from our perspective, we're just YouTubers. There's no director, there's no no producer, no editor. It's just
no Hollywood budget.
No budget. I mean, there's no filter. We just record what we want to and we post it on YouTube. There's no like barrier to this like there is if you're going to make a Hollywood movie star or a TV star. They have to go through so much to get to that point that it's a little bit more understandable it's understandable that they're celebrities because they had to go through so much to get there. All we did was press record on our camera and post it on YouTube. Yeah. So I guess I just don't feel like we're celebrities like people treat us.
That has been interesting and something we were not really prepared for. I do like other people coming here and doing YouTube videos about Ecuador because everybody has a different perspective and a different experience. And I would say this to people all the time. We could all be sitting at the same table, sharing the same meal in the same restaurant in Manta, for example, and everybody might have something different to say about it. And that's what makes it really, that's what's so unique about YouTube. There could be 20 people doing YouTube videos just like us, and we could all have a different perspective. And then people who are really trying to decide, is Ecuador the right place for me, can watch all 20 of them and learn.
Yeah, there's definitely room for multiple because I know when we were researching it, we watched as much as we could find, to help make us more comfortable with the move. So, and it's also nice now too to have other channels that are corroborating what we say because there's some channels are just not as positive about life in general or Ecuador. and they paint a bit of a different picture than we do. And so then we get people like, who's right? Well, okay, well, here's 3 other channels that film just like we do. You watch them and tell us, who do you think's telling the truth? Because we're all showing the same thing. I don't know where these other people, what they're doing, but it's nice to have other people to corroborate what we say.
It enables you to be validated, I guess, in your thoughts and your insights on Ecuador and what you've seen, and it helps too. The people who are looking for information, they're able to triangulate, right? Like the more sources that they have, like you can watch your video, can watch somebody else's videos, and then watch another person's videos, and then form their own opinion on the place based on the information that they've been able to consume. But it's interesting to me, like you guys bring up the idea of celebrity. It is really bizarre. And that's one of the topics that I have brought up quite often in most recent episodes of this podcast with people from different parts of the YouTube spectrum. I've talked to a guy who he's been doing YouTube for like 10 years and has 2.3 million subscribers. And, he's gotten quite used to it. And I've talked to, a young woman who her channel has blown up over the last few years, and she's over like 1 million subscribers, and it's still something that she wrestles with. And, we're looking at you guys, you guys have a sizable audience at around 60,000 plus subscribers and thousands of views, beyond the subscriber count. But it's just such a weird world, right, that we live in now, where, you kind of you're known, but you're not known, right? Like, unless like someone's looking for you, right? Like for me, it makes sense that, I would know these people because I have interests in travel, but other people, like my friends probably would not come across your YouTube channel because they're not as interested in Ecuador or Latin America traveling around there as I am.
Yeah, that's what surprised us, because we're not really a big channel. We don't have 1 million subscribers. So to be recognized like we are really was very surprising to us. But Ecuador is a small country, and so
I know we were in Mega Maxi, the supermarket, the other day, and we were waiting in line. This guy, it's an Ecuadorian, came up and he's like, "I love your channel. Your videos are great." He talked to us. He's like, "Can I get a selfie?" And so we took a picture. And then when we were going through the checkout line, the checker and the bagger were talking in Spanish about us, and we're saying that how famous that we are. And it was in Spanish. I'm pretty sure they didn't know we could understand what they were saying. So it's just funny that it's like these people, they know us. They're used to us now at Mega Maxi because we shop there quite a bit. But it's interesting because we've been stopped a lot waiting in line at Mega Maxi to get pictures taken. If we went anywhere else in the world outside Ecuador, nobody would know us.
No.
But in Ecuador, because it's such a small focused market, that even the Ecuadorians know us. We've been chased down in the mall by Ecuadorians before to get a picture taken. And it's fascinating to us that happens.
Yeah, but you're right. If you're not researching moving to another country, a Latin country, chances of you finding us or knowing us are slim, because why would you, right? We're very focused. Yeah. We go back home, nobody will know.
Well, and I'm sure that too is like that's a positive, right? Is like you can kind of step away from the limelight and go to places where you can be anonymous again. Whereas if you guys were like Jennifer Aniston and Brad Pitt, like everywhere you go, like everyone's gonna know you. They're gonna like want to meet you and take pictures with you and talk to you and gawk at you. Is that the gawking part is very interesting to me. Like people I'm wondering if people like see you and they just kind of look at you for a while and then don't say anything and like.
Yeah, we get that a lot.
We do.
Or in fact, more people do that than talk to us. A lot of people do that and don't say anything. It's a smaller percentage of people that actually come up and talk to us.
And maybe it's because they're not sure where they can place us. I don't know.
Yeah, that could be it. It's like they look really familiar to me. That could be it.
Yeah, I think I there have been times where I've seen celebrities or even mostly celebrity. I've seen them in person and I'm like, you do a double take. Like, is that who I think it is? And you're looking over them, you're looking over to them. But I know from talking to other YouTubers, some of that can feel like quite uncomfortable, right? Because you're kind of like doing your normal thing. Like you guys, you're going grocery shopping for God's sakes. And people are just like staring at you. And I just kind of wonder if that kind of gets tiring after a while,
Well, and it could be too, because I'm a gringo. Yeah, Amelia could pass for Ecuadorian. Amelia looks a lot like the Ecuadorians, but I, especially now that we've got the beach tans going, but I'm very, very white, and I'm not even that tall, but I'm quite a bit taller than the average Ecuadorian, and I'm bald head, and I just look a lot different. So I think a lot of people just look at me because I'm taller and white, very compared to the Ecuadorians.
That's actually pretty normal here. We've had other expats complain about being stared at because they just look different. That's just the way it is because there's a very small percentage of immigrants. I'm going to say immigrants to Ecuador that are North American or European.
There's a lot of South American, immigrants, expats from other South American countries.
Right.
And
so we
like Argentina, Chile, Peru, Colombia. There's been a lot of Venezuelans here. Yeah. So, and we've talked to a lot of them and asked, why did you move to Ecuador? And they said they traveled around a lot and there was just something about Ecuador. They all said this. They all say the same thing.
All do say
There's just something about Ecuador. It's it's a wonderful country. And it really is. The people are warm and welcoming. The food is amazing. The weather in parts is really nice. It's always, most of the country, it's like always spring weather, like 70s, 80s most of the year throughout most of the country, except in the Amazon, it gets hotter and humid. But it's just in some of the areas like where we live is a desert microclimate, and it's even sunny most of the year. It's just a beautiful country.
It is. And so I don't know. I'm just kind of oblivious, honestly. So if people are staring at me, I'm not paying any attention. I know that people look at us. I guess we probably noticed it more when we first moved to Ecuador, but that was because we're different and we stood out. And so that doesn't really bother me at all. None of it really bothers me. It's just sometimes that we get caught off guard, and sometimes people don't understand that we don't know them. And so, when they ask us, like, if they can give us a ride, for example. I'm like, we don't know you, so we don't feel comfortable getting in your car with you.
Yeah. Or
that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Or they just bump into us out and ask us to go out to lunch or dinner or for coffee. And we work. So when we're out, it's like we're running errands, we're on a time frame, and we just don't have a lot of free time because we both work we work more than we want to. I think it's so funny when I watch these YouTubers talking about being retired. It's like, I'm a retired YouTuber. I'm living off my passive income, and they've got like 500,000 subscribers. I'm like, you're not retired. We have 60,000 subscribers and this is a full-time job. So I know with these channels, they're not retired. They're just YouTube working. They're just not working in an office, maybe. But
it's a different type of work.
We work. It's a lot of work, and we enjoy it. It's a lot of fun, but it's definitely, we're not retired.
Yeah. Tell me about the process for you guys when it comes to creating the content for your channel. How much are you paying attention and allocating time to structuring videos and scripting them out, shooting them, just all of the planning that goes into creating content? I'm really curious about that.
Wow. Where do we start? It's evolved quite a bit. It used to be we would just walk out with our camera and start talking about and showing random things, and that was early. And then it definitely evolved more into like we would come up with a bullet list of things, and sometimes we would go out and talk. Other times we'd stay home and just use B-roll and show footage of the things we were talking about.
We dedicate about 2 to 3 hours. Sometimes I'll say 2 to 4 hours per video just for filming. Because it depends on whether we're going to, like JP said, go out and show an area, or if we're going to sit here at home. And we don't script, but we do put together our talking points because we don't ever want to come across like we're reading or rehearsed. We want it to be.
Yeah, we try to be normal.
Yeah.
Right. And
conversation.
right. And
But
spontaneous.
we were both public speakers before. And so we kind of have that speaker mentality already. And I guess we just brought that into the YouTube
I think so. So we'll come up with a concept. And a lot of it really does come from our viewers and their comments. If we get a lot of the same question, that a lot of times that will give us an idea like, all right, well, we should do a video about this.
Mm-hmm.
Like our video about why we left the United States. We had a lot of people asking all the time. And so we did a video about that. And then we'll go through and really it's JP does this. He'll put together an outline and then we'll review it together and then we'll talk through it a little bit before we film. But if we talk through too much, then we just it starts sounding practice. Like he said, we don't ever want to do that. So it's not a ton of upfront, although I got to tell you, there's times when we have to do things over 10 times because I'll inevitably say the wrong thing. Ever since I've had to start, we both been learning Spanish, but I have created my own language.
Oh, yeah.
Because all I do is merge English and Spanish words together all the time, or I put stuff in the reverse order because certain things, you do English a certain way and then Spanish is the opposite. So it makes for some challenges when recording.
So she has Yoda speak. I call it Yoda speak.
Yeah. So we have to add an extra time for that. And then JP will go and do editing and all of that other good stuff, which takes him quite a bit of time, actually.
Yeah. We hired an editor to help out back in February, but the last month or so I've been editing again. I think I'm just going to take it back. I felt like I was spending almost as much time preparing the footage to be edited as if I'm probably only saving myself an hour of time and then not having as much control and also not being able to get it done as quickly as I want to. Because, the editors, they have time, they have lag time, they have other clients to work with. So, I just I don't know. I think I just want to edit myself again.
So what we try to do now, which we did not do before, is spend more time up front, just fine tuning our idea and making sure we understand the talking points so that we are not rambling and go off on a tangent. And the next thing we know, we've been recording for 3 hours and
it's not good.
Worthless.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
we're talking about videos. The videos in our queue now we're talking about are going into October. So, we're over a month ahead now on the topics. Some of them we've already started working on. Others are still in the bullet point idea brainstorming phase, but we definitely think a lot further ahead. Early in our channel, we would just be like, okay, we got to record today. And so we would just grab the camera and leave the house and press record. But now we definitely plan out things a lot more.
Or it would nothing would come to us and then something would happen and we're like, all right, let's go film this. And then we would be coming down to the wire for when we needed to get it published. That was stressful. So we've learned a lot as far as doing some upfront work. And what we like to do now is have a couple of different ideas in the works so that we can decide what's really resonating with us and which one we want to go ahead and
do
for our next video.
We've been getting sponsors now, and they want approval of the video topic and they want to see it ahead of time. So we have several going at once so that we can pitch it to the sponsor, and have them basically choose which one they want their sponsorship in too. So that's another reason why we have to kind of be ahead.
It's good. It's causing us to have a bit more accountability.
Yeah.
Which is not a bad thing.
I want to dial back too in terms of the editing portion of your content creation process. How did you find your video editor?
I use a company called VidChops, VID. I'm really happy with them overall, but the way we've been filming lately, there's just not enough. We've gotten this down to a science now. And so it's very easy to do. And I think that I'm just not sure that I want to pay someone else to do it when I'm doing a lot of the work up front and on the final. Because rather than go through the video and be like, cut off a second here, move this clip here. It's faster for me just to do it. So I was having them do the rough cut and then I would do the final cut. And then I threw it back to them to add the music. that's the one piece I wish I could just have somebody do. But I have an assistant now too that helps with some of the administrative work and the tedious tasks. And so she's learning Premiere Pro, and I think I'm going to have her take over the music piece, and I'll just do the rest of it. I might even have her do the rough cut, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
JP doesn't like to give up that much control.
I definitely have my own editing style, and it's hard to get that to come out of another editor.
He was a really good editor, though.
He was, yeah. He learned my style really quickly.
Yeah. How did I?
Just through another YouTube channel.
Yeah, no, it's that's the one thing that is difficult, right, about creating content is the editing part, and then being able to like inject your own personality into it versus when you are handing it off to somebody else. There's always that concern that it might not, it might not reflect your style, so to speak. Yeah.
Right.
I did get some good new ideas from him though.
Yeah.
So he had helped me improve my editing. So I've actually taken some of the ideas.
So you mentioned there, now you guys are getting sponsors. You're doing brand collaborations, it seems, at this point. How has that been in terms of just opportunities coming your way? Like when did you start to hear from companies who are interested in working with you and using your channel as a way to reach their potential customers?
At 25,001 subscribers. That's when they started reach. As soon as we hit 25,000, they started contacting us. Yeah.
I guess I didn't know that.
That was very accurate.
That's when we went. I know. That's why I just remember. I'm like 25,000, and we got like within days we had a bunch of emails. So, and none of them panned out. We didn't like we didn't either. We were really excited about one of them. This Harry's Razors wanted to sponsor our videos. I was so excited about it. We were down to the contract phase, and I'm like, oh, by the way, how are you going to get the razors to me? I live in Ecuador. And they're like, sorry, we don't ship to Ecuador. I'm like, well, and the whole thing fell through. And then we had a few others. And after that, we went through round and round and round on several different ones. And then for whatever reason, it fell through at the last, right at the contract signing. And I told Amelia, I'm like, let's revisit this later when it's worth more, because they were offering us like $300 to do a sponsor. I'm like, we're spending way too much time just getting to the contract phase. So we revisited it when we were over 50,000, and we started getting better offers and for, more money. And
well, we also and we will always be very specific and make sure it's something that applies to our audience.
Yeah, it's got to be relevant, and we also have to like it, whatever it is. We're not just going to accept a sponsorship like for an energy drink that we only drink when we're on camera. It's just not who we are. We're going to be authentic and real with it, and promote things that we actually like and use.
But it's a little tricky here for us in Ecuador, because for physical products, Ecuador isn't. It's not easy to ship here. You can ship stuff here, but it is extremely expensive, and it can also take a long time. So that definitely limits a lot of our options. But we're making it work.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Now,
It's been fun, actually.
Yeah, we've enjoyed the sponsorships.
How many do you have? How many have you done up to this point? Or do you have any actively right now too? We
have 2 that we've published, and we're in the middle of doing another one.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's still really new for us.
Yeah.
We decided to take a step back, and that
was in October.
Okay.
When we hit 25,000 was in October when they started contacting us, and I just ended up telling every one of them, please check back with us next year, and we'll revisit this. It got a little, and we were just spending so much time responding to people, and it was weird because I remember when we were small, it's like, how do you get sponsors? Well, you just put up videos that people watch, and they will come to you. If you build it, they will come. But you have to have the right number of views and subscribers before it triggers their little search algorithm to reach out to you.
Yeah. So right now we're just, like I said, we've had some other ones that we passed on because it has to be, we have a very specific audience, they're particular, and we want to make sure we pick something that will resonate with them for obvious reasons. We want it to be successful and not irritate our audience.
Yeah.
Irritating the audience is not a good
And I imagine that you've experienced that. You know what that looks like, right?
Yes. Yeah, we've seen other people do that, and we're like, that doesn't feel right to me.
Yeah, we've seen other YouTubers have product placements or sponsors that just didn't really seem to fit them or their audience. It's like, we just don't want to be like that.
Right. So yeah, we're going to be pretty choosy, but and you can tell. So the ones that we've done, we've only done a couple, like JP said, but it was really super easy and fun. And so that's how we made it.
I'm curious if you would be able to offer any tips or advice to other creators out there in terms of like the negotiation element of dealing with brands, right? Because, you know, like you said, sometimes they can come to you and they say, hey, we want to work with you, but then the offer that they have isn't necessarily something that is enticing enough or worth your time to actually invest in. So I'm really curious if you have any insights that you could share with people on that front.
The sponsors have a budget, so they generally how they work is we've been working with brokers, right?
No, well, we work
directly with LingoPie because it's a small
and Cambly too.
Oh yeah, we work directly with both of them, but we're working with a broker for the new one that's coming up. But they have like a budget. They usually it's part of a campaign, so we're not the only ones they're reaching out to. So they're reaching out to other YouTubers. They have a budget, and they base how much they're willing to pay on the number of average views you've gotten for the past 10 videos. And they pretty much tell you, and you can ask, you can negotiate, you know, and tell them what you want, and they'll be like, oh, it's too much. Can you take X?
Right.
You know, and it's basically a good rule of thumb is like $500 per 20,000 views. So, you know, $250 for 10,000 views. So if you're and some sponsors want the smaller channel views because you have more engagement and stuff. So you might be able to get, you know, if you're only getting an average at 10,000 views per video, you can expect to make $250, $300 for a sponsor slot for that, which isn't bad.
No, not when you consider it's usually 45 to 60 seconds. I mean, I guess it depends because sometimes you'll get somebody that wants to do an exclusive standalone video, but we haven't done any of those.
It would not fit on our channel. Our audience would be irritated with us if we did a dedicated sponsor video. They would not be happy.
But those pay more. So here's been my experience dealing with the vendors or the sponsors is that they'll come to us and sometimes they'll tell you up front how much they have, but normally they're like, well, how much do you charge? And then I'll say, well, what are you asking for? Do you want this or this? What's your budget? Well, how much do you they don't want to tell you until you throw a number out. So then I'll throw a number out and I'll always aim a little bit higher, assuming they're going to negotiate. So that's what we've done. And then they'll come back and say, okay. Or they'll say, well, our budget is this. Will that work for you? Or will you take this for like a shorter time slot or something like that? Or else they just disappear. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess that wasn't meant to be.
Yeah. Sometimes they just ghost us. They just totally disappear.
Like, all right, I guess that didn't work for their budget. But another thing you could do with other YouTubers is ask other YouTubers if you have relationships. Because that's what we do is when we were kind of trying to get an idea about pricing is talk to some of our YouTube friends and get a feel for what they're seeing on their.
Yeah. So some of our YouTube friends did a sponsor slot for the same sponsor at the same week.
Yeah.
So it was funny because we were exchanging messages about we were negotiating. So we were working with each other to negotiate the best deal, you know, with the sponsor.
Yeah.
It was kind of funny.
But I think the other thing is to make sure you really read the contract thoroughly because you want to make sure that you are protected because obviously those contracts are set up to protect the company, the sponsor. I mean, I'm not trying to say that somebody's is out to get you, but we had to have them reword some things.
Yeah, because one of the contracts said that they own the video. No. You do not own our video. So you got to be really careful with the contracts. And a lot of them that's just boilerplate stuff and it's worded to protect them as much as possible. So it's got to be every one of them, if we've had an issue, so far, every one of them has modified it to address our issue.
Yeah, we've had a really good relationship with the people, the few companies. Well, this is our third, and it's been easy. And
well, it's the third that we're going forward
right.
with. We've gone back and forth on a lot of different contracts. That's why we're familiar with how this process works. But we didn't either. They pulled the trigger. They backed out, or we backed out.
Right. But once you get to when you start to talk, you got to start to build that relationship. I think it starts to become a little bit easier. And then, like I said, the nice thing is that after all is said and done, we're happy, they're happy. And then the hope is that you will be able to continue working with them in the future. So it's been a positive experience. I think you just have to be realistic as far as understanding that you're going to have to weed through some of them. And I guess it depends on where your priorities are, because if you really want to have sponsors, then maybe it's worth it for you to take a little bit less money to open up that door. Because I think once you get one, then it becomes easier.
Yeah. And what else is interesting to me too is that it's not like brand sponsorships are, the only thing that you're relying on in terms of monetizing your channel. I'm sure you also have YouTube ads. That's another slice of the pie for you. But it's really fascinating to me in doing research for this conversation that you guys have a pretty robust following on Patreon too. You have about like 500. You're like 2 away right now. As I look at your page, you've got 498 patrons. And I know on your website that you have like a dedicated page to this where you it's almost like a sales page, like, informing people of what they can get out of the experience by joining you on Patreon. So could you talk to me about your strategy and approach to using that as another tool, in your toolkit for monetizing and earning an income as content creators?
Yeah, that was our first income when we launched, because we had been publishing videos for almost a year when we launched Patreon, and we hadn't turned on ads yet. We actually never wanted to turn on ads until, because I had done some research on how much ad revenue would be for a channel our size. I'm like, it's just not worth it. $50 to inconvenience our users, our viewers, so we never turned them on and never really thought much about it after that. And then somebody made a comment like, why do you even have a YouTube channel if you're not going to have ads enabled? And I'm like, I wonder what those are worth now. I didn't even think about it. Then I went and looked in December, and I figured that we lost $10,000 in ad revenue in December by not having the ads turned on. We turned them on after that. To be honest, December is a big month.
It's Christmas.
For
Christmas time.
Ad spend on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's been nowhere near that. We're lucky to make $1,000 now on ad revenue. It's nothing, for the size of our channel. It's just the ad revenue is not that great, but the Patreon has been a real lifesaver, and it's also been a great way to build a community.
Right.
So that everybody helps each other, and nobody feels like they're going it alone. We're kind of like the figureheads of it, but it's really more about everybody else, all of the other members, that really makes it such a valuable resource.
Right. Well, and we provide extra content or extra, I guess I can't say one-on-one because we don't do that, but it's a more time with us and then with your fellow members, but it's all private too. So we have it connected to Discord, and that's helped a lot. Having our private chat community has felt people, I think it's given people a sense of security that they can go on and talk to other people who are going through the same thing that they're going through. So they're hearing from people besides just us. So they can ask us the specifics about people here, what it's like here for this situation, or who we recommend or whatever. But then they can also ask some of the people who have moved to Ecuador recently, or maybe they want to have a conversation with somebody who's feeling the same way they are about some of the pros and cons of moving to another country. And it's been really valuable, I think, that a service that we provided. And gosh, we've gotten so much out of them too. It's really cool because you get to know everybody, and it's been very rewarding.
And they kind of funded it, and because the expenses start adding up too. Yeah. Doing YouTube is not free. So, we've got the website and the web hosting, and we've got the equipment, the editing, the licensing for Adobe, there's all kinds of licenses involved, and it's not free to do this. So it started getting to the point where it was costing us money to create these videos. So the patrons really funded it in the beginning before the ads were doing anything, would have done anything. And we didn't have any other income from it. So we were really, really happy. And they were really responsive. Our audience, by the time we launched Patreon, was really, supportive of us. So I set goals, like early goals, like 10 members. And I'm like, we'll mention your name in a video. And we had 10 members in like 5 minutes. And I was hopeful we would have 10 members within a month.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, the next goal is 25. We had 25 members by the next day. And I was like, well, I can't believe people actually like this, that they're willing to pay us money for this stuff. And it was really a rewarding thing. And it made it feel like we were really doing something that people valued.
Yeah, it did make us feel really good. And it still does, because it's so cool to see everybody interacting within our Discord community and helping each other out. I mean, we've had people ask in the United States, can you get X prescription? And then somebody will go out to the drugstore here and look it up for them and tell them how much it costs. And I just think, gosh, that's so awesome. And we're really grateful. But then we still work, obviously, so we do our Q&A videos monthly, and then we do our chats. And
we have a live chat hangout that we do where we gather for an hour once a month. And we're us and Amelia and I and a bunch of people are all chatting, the live chat at the same time, which is fun because Discord is asynchronous. So we're there, we check in every day and post, when we have time. But the live chat hangout is that we're live, typing for an hour, and it's fun too. We all share funny memes, and it's just funny. Yeah. And then we have our Zoom happy hour where we do a Zoom call once a month, and we invite experts like the real estate agents and visa agents and a shipping agent and people that will come on and actually answer those specific questions about, moving here that we don't necessarily have the answers to.
Right. So we wanted to make it more about not just people giving us money, that we really wanted to provide a service.
Yeah, it's a membership. That's why we really call them members now instead of patrons, because, patron is kind of the implication is that they're giving you money, but it's really more of a membership in that they're paying us to provide additional value. Right. So that's we've kind of changed our wording recently, within the last 6 months or so, because we felt like we're giving all of this value, and it's really, they're just not donating money to us. Right.
And fortunately, people, I hope they feel the same way.
Yeah, I hope so.
I hope they feel like they're getting their value out of their money, because that's what it's all about.
Well, yeah. And it sounds like it ends up being like this virtuous cycle for you guys, right? Because then you bring in these experts like a visa agent in Ecuador or a realtor in Ecuador. And that's great for them because they're probably generating business from you guys too. So you're able to you're connecting one party that has a need with another party that has a need. And it's only fair, to ask for a little bit of compensation for that. There's nothing wrong with doing that, because you put in the work to organize all of that. So I think that's really cool what you guys are able to do and have figured out how to, leverage all of this, because I think that's, one of the things that are definitely challenging for content creators, even as they build up an audience, is how can they actually go about monetizing? And it really sounds like you guys take this approach of like service, helping people, delivering, giving people value, first, as opposed to, thinking about like, how do I get this money?
Yeah, we just started an introduction service a few months ago. Sorry, I choked on my water.
Oh, it's okay.
Where we, I know, where we send introduction emails. So if somebody fills out a form on our website, then we send an introduction email to whatever type of service they need, where it's visa agent or private driver, massage therapist, because we built up this Rolodex of people since we've lived here, and we get these emails all the time from people like, can you recommend a shipping company or a real estate agent? And so we're like, before we would just like send an introduction email manually. Well, now it was getting to the point where it's just taking too much time to do that, to field all of those emails. So now we created this automated form where they fill out the form. It automatically sends an introduction email immediately. So they don't have to wait for us to go through our email inbox and do it manually. So it's an instant gratification. And then we also, for some of those, not all of them, but for some of them, we get like a referral fee or a commission off of from the introduction if they purchase a service or go with that person. So that's helped us generate, additional income as well.
Yeah, because you just cannot rely on YouTube ads, because it's great when you're flying high and YouTube's recommending all your videos, but then if it stops, boy, it's a bit painful.
Yeah. Yeah, because we have gone through the highs and lows of YouTube, and where we were adding 1,000 subscribers a day, and then it just dried up. And, then we had some negative days, like where YouTube's cleaning out their bogus subscribers, and we lose 20 subscribers in a day. And it's like, oh, this is painful. So it's definitely a roller coaster on YouTube, because sometimes you're up and you're in the algorithm's good graces, and other times you're not.
Yeah, now, how do you guys go about balancing content creation, being YouTubers, with your day jobs that you still have?
Well, JP doesn't really do much with his anymore.
Mine's the YouTube. That's my focus now. That's my full-time job. Amelia's, it's tougher for her.
It is, but well, thanks to the pandemic, my company now had to have everybody work remotely. So they had to restructure, which was actually worse for me for a while, because it meant we had a lot more meetings, but that's kind of calmed down and everyone's gotten into this routine. So I'm able to work really when I want to. So I can work around our recording schedule. And the nice thing about being in Ecuador is that right now we're in Central Time. So the time change is not a big issue. So I just kind of fit it in here and there. We have different work styles anyway. So I'm not one of those people who wants to sit down and I can't work and be in front of a computer for like 4 hours straight without taking a break. I can work for like 45 minutes and I have to get up and move around. So my job works quite well with my work style, because I don't have to do anything where I have to be stuck to my computer for long periods of time, thank God, because I couldn't handle that.
Yeah, I call her a hummingbird because she just flips around all the time. And I just sit there. We did a time-lapse video once of us working at the same table, and I didn't even move the whole time. And she's like bouncing all over the place, just like a hummingbird.
I don't know how he does it, because that would make me crazy. But I actually did have a conversation with my employer and told him I needed to free up my mornings. So because it was interfering too much with our lives in general, because for a while we had meetings every day, and it was a bit out of control. And they were very accommodating, and they let me restructure my schedule. And since then, they've actually cut a lot of those out. So I think that I don't know, maybe they realized that if somebody finally spoke up and said something, maybe it was time for them to cut some of those out anyway. I don't know.
They realize that more meetings doesn't necessarily mean more effective or productive business that's happening. So as we kind of close things out here, just a few more things I want to talk to you guys about. I am curious about just the challenges that you face as content creators. What would you say those are at this stage and where you are in your content creation career?
I would say the biggest challenge for me is dealing with the troll comments. I don't know. I responded to every comment for like the first 2 years of our channel. And then I just got to the point where I couldn't take it anymore. And it sucks for most people are really nice and really, really good comments. And I miss those, but I just couldn't handle all of the negativity anymore. And just the meanness, like people are just so mean in the comments and judgmental and accusatory and just all of that. And it may only be 5% of the comments, but man, it just weighs on you after a while. So Amelia and my assistant, they do most of the comments now. I'll respond for the first hour or so after we publish the video. So and those are all nice. The people who watch our videos right away are all of our long-term loyals. And so those are all really nice comments, and I enjoy responding to them. So that's the best time if you want me to respond, is to post your comment within the first hour. But I don't know. I think that's really the hardest part. And then also the YouTube algorithm dance. That is rough because, we were really growing, and I thought that, we had caught the wind in our sail and that we were just off to the races, and YouTube's like, psych, not, so we were growing like that. And then all of a sudden it just died like overnight. The next day, all of the videos that were being watched, thousands of views a day, were down to like less than 100, all of them at once.
Yeah, it was really weird.
And I went back and forth with YouTube support, and they're like, nobody's watching those videos anymore. Like, why? Why aren't they watching them? They're like, I don't know, but you need to make more better videos. Like, but they were watching them. Now they're not. Why? The suggestions, YouTube just stopped suggesting our videos pretty much overnight. And we have no control over that. It's just, for whatever reason, the algorithm decided that they didn't want to suggest our videos anymore. And so our traffic plummeted. We had 1 million view month in February, and we had 100,000 views in July. So, that's 90% decline in views, and over that span. And really it went in March, we dropped down to like 350,000 from 1 million in February to like 300 and some in March. And then it's just kept declining. So I would say those two things, the trolls and the YouTube algorithm, are the biggest challenges. Yeah. And you have to figure out if you can handle that, because there are things, there's always going to be things that are out of your control. So, it definitely bummed us out when our traffic slowed down, but we took it as like, all right, well, let's take this time to regroup. And we started building the business then, because before we were just YouTubers, and we had our Patreon community, but we didn't have it. That was it. We had no other revenue stream. We didn't really have a business built around it. And so we really we used that as, once we finally accepted that reality that YouTube just isn't going to recommend our videos until they feel like it again, and we have no control over that. We're like, okay, we should build the pillars to the business now. Right. So we started doing the newsletter and actually doing some promotions for Patreon, and then we did our referral program, and now we're working on a new project that's another pillar of the business that hopefully will be done in a month or so. Yeah, but in retrospect, it was a really good thing that happened to us, because it gave us time to really evaluate where we were at and what we needed to do to move forward. But boy, it was painful when we were in the middle of it, because we didn't know what was going on. But I guess one of the issues then with YouTube is like, well, is this the right fit for us? You start to doubt yourself. You're like, okay, what have we done wrong? Have we alienated our viewers, all of that stuff? But we're like, nope, you know what? We just need to, as long as we're still enjoying what we're doing, we just need to keep going. And our loyal audience, they really appreciate our videos. So that's what kind of keeps us going, is knowing that our loyal viewers still watch, and they still appreciate having access to this information, and it's still inspiring them and helping them feel more comfortable with their decision to move abroad. I guess we just kind of got, I don't know, what do you call it? We got used to the views and the new subscribers, and that we were growing so quickly. It's like euphoric, and then when it goes away, it feels like you've, I don't know, how do you describe it? I don't know. I think it's interesting, because it'll happen again. That's just the part of the cycle of this stuff. Just like with any business, you have your highs and your lows. That's just in life in general. But because we pour a lot of ourselves and our time into creating these videos, so that we feel like, and we said, we scrapped videos. So we felt like every video we choose to publish is the best video that we could have done on that subject. And so to post one and get 250,000 views on it and then post another one and get like 2,500 or 20,000 views. And I feel like they're just equally as good. Like there's no reason why one should be 10 times the views as the other, but it's just the way the YouTube algorithm works, and it's out of our control, and there's just not a lot we can do about it other than just keep making good videos. Exactly.
We just focus on keeping making good videos, do what makes us happy, staying positive, and I feel like the rest of it kind of works itself out. And it's also one of those situations, just like everything else, like we said, where you have to just keep your eye out for the different possibilities, because this happens with, like I said, with every business. It doesn't matter if you're doing YouTube or you're doing, I don't know, selling water bottles. It's just the way it is.
Yeah. You hit like obstacles along the way, but it's really encouraging and fascinating to me to see you guys doing what you're doing. And especially JP, with your background in entrepreneurship, I imagine that you're applying a lot of the principles and things that you've learned throughout your own career of running like internet business to just running a YouTube channel. And that gives you such an advantage in this department compared to a lot of people who don't necessarily understand the business elements of content creation.
Yeah, and I guess I didn't use that at the beginning.
You just wanted to make stuff.
I just really wanted to. I just wanted to make videos and make some money and be YouTubers and made money off of videos. But then I realized that you can't rely on that. So, and we're not retired, so I need to actually earn an income. So I couldn't just be a broke YouTuber.
Exactly. Well, guys, this was such a fun conversation to have. We touched on a lot in it, and I'm really glad that we got to touch base. I got to hear the ocean in the background. Makes me want to go to Ecuador. I have not ventured that far south yet, but I think at some point I need to, just because of the things that you're doing on your YouTube channel and how you're showcasing the beauty that Ecuador has. So thank you for all that you do. And thank you for coming on this episode of the Videocraft Show presented by Video Husky. Before we wrap up, would you like to just let everybody know where they can find you and stay up to date on all things that you're doing?
Yeah, our YouTube channel is Amelia and JP, and our website is liveabroadnow.com. That's where we post all of the expat information. So that's the best way.
Yep. And thank you. We had a great time too.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you again to Amelia and JP for joining me on this episode of the Videocraft Show presented by Video Husky. Before we wrap things up, I want to remind all of you, if you can, please share the episode with some friends. Do so on Messenger, Facebook Messenger, Instagram DM, or send a link over text messages to your friends. It really helps us out if you can show your support for the show in that way. Also, if you are looking to structure your videos in a much more organized fashion, and you're a content creator who needs help with that, then I've got a resource for you. Get a copy of our free script template. It can help you do exactly that. All you have to do is visit www.videocraftshow.com and scroll down, and you will see a form to sign up to our email list. And when you do that, you will get a copy of our free video scripting template delivered straight to your inbox right after you sign up. Also, if you can, make sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or wherever it is you get your podcasts. Like and comment on this video if you're watching us on YouTube. And also to subscribe to the podcast wherever it is that you get your podcasts. We're available again on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Castbox, Stitcher, all the big podcasting platforms. You can listen to this podcast anywhere podcasts are available. Podcast. It's my favorite word, guys. Of course, let's not forget to give a special shout out to my team for helping me with producing this video. Got to shout out Nikki Vicente for all her work as a producer of the show, as well as Ingrid Saraiba, my editor, and of course, Paulo Lopez handling everything on graphics. Now, if you would like to have videos edited to look just like this, then make sure to visit videohusky.com to learn more. That's going to do it for this episode of the Videocraft Show presented by Video Husky. We will see you next week for another edition, another episode. Take care. Until then.